This is TV Podcast Industries, and we're talking about Star Trek Picard, Season 2, Episode 6, 2 of 1. Welcome back, fellow Trekkies, Trekkers, and everything in between. This is TV Podcast Industries, and we're talking about Star Trek Picard, Season 2, Episode 6, 2 of 1. I am one of your hosts, Chris of 1, joined by...
Yes, welcome back, fellow Trekkies. I am one of your other hosts, John, 2 of 3.
I guess that makes me 3 of 3. I'm Derek, one of your other hosts. Excellent.
Okay, you're the full house, the full package.
I like being 3 of 3. That's pretty cool. Welcome back, fellow Trekkies.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much to my illustrious co-hosts for covering for me for last week.
That's all good, man. I
was kidnapped by the Romulans. It was fine. Actually, it wasn't even the Romulans, it was the Vulcans, because it was just a boring, logical conversation that I missed.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, we can tell by your haircut you have been with first contact with the Vulcans.
Yes, it is shaved, sharp, and shoon. Much like a dog and a sheepdog. Or not even a sheepdog, sorry, a woolly sheep.
A woolly sheep. Interesting. Yes. This always works really well on a podcast, on an audio medium, doesn't it?
It does. So, for those of you who know about haircuts, I have basically a 0 to a 1 fade on the sides and back, going into a spiky front, just because usually it is too big of a... My hair grows so fast. Mm-hmm. Essentially, I am like... As
shoe
my hair, yeah. Well, I was going for the other one. I was going to be like a tribble. There's always a furry tribble. There you go. I was going for the Star Trek reference.
Very good, very good. Well, let's get off the hair podcast topic. And since you weren't here last week, Chris, there's also been some massive news on Star Trek Picard that you may have missed this week. First Contact Day happens this week. So part of that is announcements about all the Star Trek shows, and one of those was for season 3 of the show. It has been confirmed that for season 3 of Picard, the final season of Picard, as we know, the cast has been announced. We will have, of course, Patrick Stewart. We will also have LeVar Burton, Michael Dorn, Jonathan Frakes, Gates McFadden, Marina Sirtis, and Brent Spiner all joining the cast next season as their original characters from The Next Generation. How cool is that?
Very, very, very cool. I love that little bit that they put up, the video. It just felt really emotional. It reminded me of being a spotty, sweaty teenager in the 90s.
Speaking of spotty, sweaty teenagers, well, where's Will Wheaton? Why is he Wesley Crusher? I know he goes off with the Traveller at the end. I'm like, can he not come back? Can he just travel back?
I feel like there would be too much to explain in the story of the show if they brought him back. So it would end off being the arc of the season to explain what he's been doing. But I'm sure the door is open to him to return. He has been hosting the after show, interviewing all of these cast members over the years as well in various places. So he's definitely kept his hand in Star Trek, but I don't think Will Wheaton acts very often anymore either. So
no, he doesn't. But it is great to see. I got emotional seeing this. I was like, I'm down. They're not even down and finished season 2 yet, and we're getting season 3. I will happily go in. My only bit is, but where's the rest of the cast? Which is that a spoiler? Is it not a spoiler? No, it's not, because who knows? Can be in season 3.
They do say joining the cast,
exactly.
So I hope they don't all die in this season, to be honest.
Surprise!
It does increase the stakes, though, for the cast of the current season, doesn't it?
It really does.
You want to come back, you better be good.
Anyway, massive big news this week, and lots of other news about Star Trek out there this week for the anniversary, I guess, kind of like a pre-anniversary of First Contact Day, because First Contact doesn't happen until 2064 in the Star Trek universe, but it happens in April. So I kind of love that they do that every year, because it's always fun to get the little trailers and information about all the shows.
Exactly. And given how much, they have kind of foreshadowed or foreseen with some of the ideas in the show back to the original, can you imagine if we did get First Contact in 2064?
How
awesome would that be? Unless it was kind of, alien ant overlords.
I know, but I'm sure you'd see lots of Star Trek fans who'd be like, I know, don't do it in February. You have to do it in April. Don't come down.
Just stay in orbit.
Excellent. But following on from that announcement that obviously some of the cast are returning, some of the former cast of Next Generation are involved in this episode. Once again, Jonathan Frakes, the director of this episode. Episode was written by Cindy Appel and Jane Maggs. Cindy Appel wrote episode 5, and Jane Maggs wrote the teleplay for episode 4. So lots of returning people on this specific episode as well.
Yeah, exactly. And much like the upcoming show, Strange New Worlds, we get some very strange happenings towards the end of this episode. Who lives, who dies, who walks away into the distance? Well, only one man can tell us. No, it's not Q. It's not a watcher. It is our own watcher and teller. John, do you want to tell us what they gave us?
Sure. Yes, I also go by the name Jay when I'm floating out in outer space, causing mischief and mayhem.
Oh, the J continuum would be incredible.
Oh my god.
It'd be so sexy.
And so British.
Well, yes, exactly. But anyway, on with the synopsis. Agnes Jerati's plan to get the team into a gala dinner for the Europa Exploration mission hits a snag when she's unable to escape her handcuffs in the security room. With Jean-Luc, Rios, Rafi, Seven and Tallinn depending on her, Agnes gives a little control over to the Borg Queen in return for her help. The team keep pilot Renée Picard in their sights to make certain she gets to secure quarantine before her mission. But as security becomes suspicious of Jean-Luc Picard, Jerati has to give over a little more control to the Queen to create a musical diversion. As Picard calms Renee and helps her back on her path to destiny, Q's coercion of Doctor Adam Soong plays out. He's been tasked with doing whatever it takes to keep the astronaut from her mission. Soong tries to kill Renee, but Picard saves her, putting himself at death's door. Rios calls in the help of his 21st century love, Teresa, to treat a comatose Jean-Luc under the radar. But Picard's issues are not physical, and Tallinn resolves to enter his mind and free him from the block that has him in a coma. Having failed his mission, a distraught Adam Soong returns to his daughter, Corrie, where his ramblings raise her suspicion. She hacks into his computer files and learns her true history. She is the final experiment in a long, long line of Soong's children. As Corrie ponders her future, the Borg Queen steps out into the streets of Los Angeles 2024, now in full control of the body of Agnes Jerati.
And walk or shantays away does she. Whew, that was an ending with Jerati.
Yes,
Yeah,
it was.
it really was.
Or sorry, what are we going to call her?
BQ.
She's not Jerati.
2 of 1.
Oh, two. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Very
2
good.
of 1.
Very
Nice. Well done. That now I understand the name of the episode.
Yes.
But in case you didn't and you were interested to know about how we will go through it, just a quick reminder, we are going to go through 3 points each, our big, our small, and our medium. Yes, not in that order, just because that would be quite strange. But let's kick it off with our small moments for this episode.
Make it so, number 1.
Yes, our general orders. Who wants to have their first general order on the table?
I will have a side of chips and...
No, I'll kick off with mine because it's just about the framing device for the episode. It's just something that kind of annoys me. It's a kind of a standard. Chris, you talk about tropes quite a lot that you don't like, and this is one that really annoys me because I used to use this in creative writing back when I was about 8 years old, where you start the story where someone's dying and then you go through the whole story and you check in on that person dying the whole way through. And then it turns out actually somebody got there in time to rescue them and take them off to the hospital in time. I just don't like it as a framing device. And particularly by the time it got to the end of the episode, it wasn't necessary because you still had the possibility the whole way through that Soong was on a mission to take down Jean-Luc Picard. You had that the whole way through. And it ends that he takes him down by mistake. It doesn't add anything to the drama of the episode, and I just didn't like it as a basic framing device for the episode. You could have left all of those individual scenes out, and we wouldn't have had to see 90-year-old Patrick Stewart on the ground with blood in his face 4 times in the episode. I just don't think it was necessary.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. It is literally an old handover from previous cable serialized television, where they would have these first few minutes and then an ad break. And this was there to keep you for the first few minutes so you wouldn't turn over at the ad break and come into the next part. That's what it is from.
Exactly.
It's literally, we have seen the inverse in streaming TV, where it's always closed on a huge cliffhanger that you're like, oh my god, I need to let it run for the next 10 seconds so we get into it. It works sometimes. If it's a big enough twist, I can't even come up with a good. I have seen it employed well.
Absolutely.
It's just very tropey, and the key thing you said here, it added nothing. It literally, it's just, we wanted to put Picard on an operating table. We basically, by the end, is like, we need Picard unconscious. How do we get there? Let's make him unconscious right at the beginning and then tell you how he became unconscious.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't need any of it. The story plays without all of those scenes in there. So I just thought it was a weird choice, and I just wasn't a big fan of it. That's all.
Well, I, for one, quite like old cable framing devices. I didn't have a problem with it. To be honest, I thought it really, did a kind of intriguing opening. It's like, well, how does he get there? What leads to that? I think the only thing they possibly shouldn't have done is clarify that Soong was going after Jean-Luc. Because in the previous episode, when Q is asking him, it's just Picard. It could be Renee, it could be Jean-Luc. So I thought maybe, that didn't necessarily help it, to be honest, just to have an idea, because it could have gotten Renee and Picard was down for some other reason. I just didn't know. I was initially thinking it could have been around the Borg Queen or something like that. So I didn't really mind this, to be honest. And I think with the flashes, yes, we saw a lot of kind of unconscious Jean-Luc, but thrown into that were some kind of good flashes to what happened at Chateau Picard. We'd seen them before, but certainly in some of the ones towards the end of the episode, in those flashes, there seemed to be a monster type creature there. And of course, when we get to the reveal of him at Teresa's medical clinic, it's that he is in a coma with effectively mental block, not with actually any physical ailments.
Yes, but again, I will point out that is after the flashes of 42 minutes, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, so you could completely disregard this. And I will say, I have about 40 or 50 essays from when I was about 10 to 15 that you may enjoy reading.
Shakespeare doesn't get old.
He's calling me Shakespeare now. Thank you so much, John. Awesome.
No, but I mean, it's a device. Yes, it's been used, but doesn't make it irrelevant. Otherwise, why would we keep using full stops? Because they're always used.
I don't know what you mean, but let's move on far faster, because I'm going to keep talking without full stops just for this whole episode.
Please don't do that.
Okay, sorry. I'll jump in very quickly, because mine is a continuation on a Picard story. It's the meeting between Renee and Jean-Luc. And it's just the old man, wise, elderly security guard. Because in every gala you always have a 90-year-old security guard. It just comes with the territory. But they come in and they're good and wise and give sage advice in an hour of need.
Maybe he's that security guard that's just 5 days away from retirement. You know those ones.
Yeah, it's just like that. I'm getting too old for this shit.
Yeah, it's 2024 America, where I guess there's no old age pension or something like that. So you've got to keep working till you die.
Yeah, there you go. I just thought this was really sweet. It was nice. The script where it has him ask her, like, tell me about that shuttle.
Yeah.
And kind of like, and she then launches into this big kind of spiel about who it is, what it is, why it is. And it's really fun. It's a nice bit where he is essentially reminding her that, and it was really nice. It was just this talk about fear and that you need to have that fear, that adrenaline. And it does then lead into this kind of, the Picards are the explorers. They are the first, they're the intrepid, to boldly go where no one has gone before.
Yeah,
it's that kind of, it's ingrained in them. And
absolutely.
That's all it was missing for me. I was expecting him to give her that kind of additional final pep talk.
Right.
Kind of that line.
I love how it ties into the series. I love that he ties in his mother's just look up moment. But this is how you use Jean-Luc Picard as a character. His inspirational speeches are really such a central part of who he is as a character. So having him say to her, she's going through her massive darkest moment. She's going through the moment where she feels like she's not good enough to go on this mission. And he's saying to her, even in the darkest of circumstances, find the light and let that guide you back to who you are supposed to be. And you're going, if anybody said that to me, I'm going to follow them to the ends of the earth or the galaxy.
And I think it's inspirational, but it's just that it exudes wisdom. It exudes that idea, and given it is generations of Picards here, of sitting down with a grandfather or a grandmother with all this life experience, and then just having a quiet word where they impart some sage advice or some wisdom from their years. And it just felt completely right. It felt really good. It exudes empathy. I thought this was beautiful moment in the episode.
Yeah, really good. Really, really good. Good one, Chris.
Yep. Rounding out the small moments, John, what was yours?
Mine was just Rios kind of settling into 21st century, really. Yes, it's noisy. There's quite a lot of fumes around and all that, but it seems like he kind of quite likes that. You know, he's that gunslinger, but he loves the food. He loves the cigars, and there's always music playing. And I just really kind of like that because, you know, the thing about the Federation, yes, they still have bars and so on, but being on the starships, you very rarely see the kind of the down and dirty nitty gritty.
The scum and villainy.
Effectively, yeah. I mean,
the lower decks.
Yeah, apart from maybe lower decks, you know, that's kind of where it's come in.
Yeah.
You know, it's all very much about diplomatic. It's on these military or exploration ships. So I actually just really liked seeing them, the different adaptations that were of the crew in the 21st century. You know, we also have Rafi just sort of pointing out that she's singing Seven of Nine, really enjoying herself now that she's free from the Borg implants, that even Jerati is a bit different, not knowing the reason why. Rios just seemed really full of fun and enjoying this time, sort of a bit indulgent. And poor Rafi, unfortunately, is still seeing Elnor.
Yeah.
So she's kind of not enjoying her experience quite as much in 2024 LA.
Absolutely. But I do love that she describes Seven by saying, you know, I love seeing her without the implants because that's been such a weight on her. I love seeing her lighter for a while.
Yeah.
It's a lovely kind of moment between the two of them. But Rios again with the unlit cigar, even though it is a real cigar. Maybe it's too precious to light it. He does have some matches with him, but we did comment in the first episode that we saw him on a starship with a cigar that he was carrying around and unlit because smoking's bad, kids. As you know.
Yeah, that's it. I'll carry it. I won't smoke it, I'll carry it.
I'll tell you how great it smells. I'll tell you, look, they have boxes of matches in this century, but not going to light it, of course. But it is interesting, and I suppose the kind of wrapper on the whole thing is that Rios is telling this to Rafi, and Rafi kind of realizes, yeah, okay, I see that you kind of like this century, but is it because you found a girl? So, yeah, this lover boy Rios is coming out because he does have somebody special.
That's the other side of it. And she does warn him not to get too close because ultimately him being from many centuries in the future, that he will always have to lie to her.
And I'm my own grandpa is what always comes to mind in these kind of storylines, right? Have you checked out the lineage of who her kids will be in future just to make sure that you're not your own grandfather?
Oh my god, it would be so good if they did that. It would be so tropey, but I'd laugh for at least 20 minutes. But let's move on to our medium moment for this episode.
Implement the Omega Directive immediately.
Mr. Harrison, do you want to take us away with your musical interpretation of your point?
Yep, it is the Jerati musical number. It's the big diversion, the distraction that allows Picard to keep his sights and give that sage advice to Renee. I really like the build up to this moment because it had such a good payoff, really.
Yeah.
We've kind of glimpsed it earlier on in the security room where Jerati's just going to give that little bit of control so that she can free herself of the handcuffs and allow the rest of the gang and crew, I should say, into the gala party. So, and it's just here then the distraction, and she allows a little bit more of the Borg Queen in. I think the really nice part about this, which I laughed at the time in the security room. I thought it was really just a nice little kind of comedy point where the Borg Queen just warns her about all the stress hormones that are not good for us. And you just think it's kind of a throwaway remark that the Borg Queen's just really being a bit pointed towards Jerati, trying to say, well, you really enjoy this, don't you? You protest too much.
Yes.
But that ultimately, when it comes to the big musical belter and solo sing-along that Jerati does, it puts the right amount of endorphins into Jerati's system, so that the Borg Queen can get control of Jerati. And she does with, I guess, that trope of the black eyes that then go back to sort of normal human eyes.
I absolutely
a bit like in Supernatural.
Exactly. But I think we've seen that before with the Borg Queen as well. So it is something from Star Trek definitely as well. But I love the payoff for that. I absolutely love the performance on stage when Jerati's bowing and the Borg Queen is holding her hand and bowing with her is fantastic. Yeah. The setup of it when they're having the conversation in the hallway and you see Jerati reflected in the lunar shuttle, the glass case. And then the Borg Queen appears as she gets stronger with inside Jerati. It's so well done in this episode. Such great choices to kind of display this. But there's also been that niggling the whole way through from the Borg Queen. I love that. I love where she's saying to Jerati, it's been great. It's been great fun lying to your friends, especially that one you had intercourse with.
Yes.
Really great niggling from her.
Really good. I think the other thing as well is that moment where Rios and Rafi are talking at the bar, and, effectively while Jerati is going Borgish in a sense, I think the other side of it is, yes, the Borg Queen has effectively tricked her. She's played a long game here. But you can see there is a bit of seduction from the confidence that the Borg Queen has brought Jerati as well. So Jerati has allowed her to take control again for this distraction because of that seduction that the Borg Queen has given her in terms of giving her that strength to break the handcuffs. But also in terms of how she's able to speak with other people. So there's just that side of it as well, is that, Jerati, who is this loner, suddenly is socially very much more confident.
Well, yeah, we see the very confident grab of Rios, when he says he cares for her. Especially after kind of almost saying that he's going to stay in the 21st century for a woman. that isn't Jerati, suddenly gets grabbed and kissed by the Borg Queen Jerati, I guess. Not a great moment for that. And Rios has to play it down pretty quickly, right?
He does, and it's one of those. I can see the thing. It's one of the final episodes. It's like, but Jerati, come back to me. And then she's like, well, actually, I don't like you that much.
Yeah.
It's like, I want you to stay, Jerati, but like, not that much. I really enjoyed this. I am going to pull in a small bit of feedback from one Dr. Bob Phillips, from later on from our feedback section, but he did call out Jerati singing is proof that the universe is in perfect balance, isn't it? On one side, you have Agnes, and on the other, Mr. Chris Jones.
Fantastic, Dr. Bob.
Yeah. I'm kind of like, yeah, fair point. That's a very valid criticism and or observation, depending on.
Like, Alison Pill does have a fantastic voice. And yes.
I was like shocked.
Yeah.
That was one of the bits I was not, I was like, is that her? Or is that, do you think there was a voiceover to a degree?
The only thing I've ever heard her sing before was 1, 2, 3, 4, when she was in Scott Pilgrim versus the World playing the drummer in the band. That's the only thing I've ever heard Alison Pill sing before. But I think this is her. Yeah, I think this is her voice doing the cover of the Pat Benatar song.
It was
very good.
Yeah, it was like, that's all I can say. I was just like, it made me take pause because I essentially was trying to make lunch at the same time as watching this. And I essentially was just kind of cutting a bit of an avocado for my avocado on toast because I'm that guy. I'm sorry. I like to enjoy my lunch when I watch Picard.
Excellent.
So I was having some avocado on toast. And
dear Chris.
yeah, I'm sorry, folks.
You're a trope of yourself.
Did you have
Chris.
a lumberjack shirt on as well?
No, I had a black denim shirt, I will say.
Was it open with a t-shirt underneath it?
It was, always. Tech bro to the bow.
But, fellow trekkers, you did have to check to see if he was wearing a lumberjack shirt, importantly.
Yes. I did just look down.
Anyway, back to Jerati.
Yes. Anyway, I really enjoyed this. I think it's a fun musical kind of break, but at the same point, it's not a for the numbers, for the reason it's there. It makes sense in the wider storyline.
Yeah.
It's not just let's throw in a musical number because we can.
Exactly. And I was actually going to make the point that when Jonathan Frakes used to direct episodes of Star Trek, Next Generation, it's been turned into kind of a meme that once he was directing an episode, you knew some jazz was going to appear in the episode. You'd see him kind of walking around set with his trumpet was the old joke. So that's what's happened here. He is directing an episode. He's got Alison Pill. They do this great musical number, which is a jazz version of a Pat Benatar song, a singer. Great lyrics that go really well with the fact that she's giving over control to the Borg Queen. The lyrics match that perfectly. So really good choices there. But it's the payoff, the fact that she's got the endorphins that allow the Borg Queen to take over is what makes this scene work so well. Because you could easily just make it a throwaway, this is the musical episode of Picard. But it works really well in context.
Yeah. No, it really does.
Really like it.
And I think we'll talk more about Jerati later in this episode. Mm-hmm. So if you don't mind, I'll move on to my kind of medium point or Omega directive for this one. Adam and his mission. Ooh, his mission, like he is the breath of change that we see in Brett Spiner throughout these two episodes. As Adam on this kind of being that disgrace, what we thought was, he's a disgraced scientist. Kind of like he's just pushing the boundary because he loves his daughter so much, to slowly kind of seeing this breakdown of him as Q has given him this, essentially the lifeline. Again, it's up until that point, it's all about his love of a daughter and the lengths he will go to do it. And you see this character breaking, what we think is him breaking his moral code in order to save his daughter's life. And that was such a strong moment because like, he's like, I will do anything. I will do anything to save you. I will murder a Picard. I will remove a Picard from the equation.
Yeah.
and you're like, oh god, like this is a really nice moment, especially because of who the two actors are and our season 1 interactions with them.
Yeah.
In their kind of android and I don't know, it's the mirror android self to whatever we're going to talk about on this one.
Yeah.
It's just so interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. There's a real nice disconnect between, what we've seen of Adam Soong before this episode in terms of how he's caring for Corey. And then, what he will go to, and the extremes he will go to.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed the meeting of Picard and Soong in this. I thought them coming together just really, really good. Picard warning him, he doesn't know who he's dealing with in Q and what that may mean. So I really enjoyed all this. The only thing I thought which seemed a little superfluous, and in the end I'm not entirely sure why it was put in with how it played out, was him coming on the board of the Europa mission, because what we see later in the episode is that the fact that he is a disgraced researcher has made public news.
Yeah.
And so I guess the NASA of the day in 2024, maybe it's been overtaken by Elon Musk, who knows? But effectively, Hitler, in you come, you've got loads of money. Disgraced scientist with serious questions over his ethics and morality. We'll have you on the board of a very important space mission. So that made no sense that the chair of that board would even approve that. Unless, because I think she did call him Dr. Soong. So.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not like he hid his identity.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was a little weird. And in the end, I thought something was going to be playing out. Like he just says, Renée Picard can't go on this mission. I've heard information from a therapist, which is Q, so that they're working together. There'll be something like that. And maybe there will be in maybe another episode now that he knows he's failed in stopping her from getting into the quarantine, the pre-launch quarantine. So that was my only thing here. It just felt kind of just a little pointless, that bit.
I think you might have said pre-lunch quarantine, but pre-launch quarantine. That's what you meant. Right? John's hungry. It's we're getting to the evening. I know what you mean. I was thinking about it just while you were making the point there about what Soong was doing, and I was trying to work out why he joined the board, because it does make much more sense in the storyline that he would try to exert pressure on them because he's now a member of the board. He even says to Picard, "I've got something to do," and walks away from him as if he's going to tell the board, "Well, now that I'm a member, we can't have her as the pilot, as the astronaut here." And then I've just realized that what he'd really done, that whole front that Jerati had to do to get into the party and get everybody all their passes, he just paid money to get on the board to get to the party in one day. That's his way of getting past the security, basically.
Yeah.
So is that all that he's done? Has he bought his way onto a board of directors for, I would say, quite a lot of money?
Well,
just to bypass security.
If I was Renee, I wouldn't be getting on board that shuttle if they're the kind of people that they have on the board. Well, it's kind of like, the top 10 bogey men and women are, from around the planet are invited to the Europa space mission board.
But it's her destiny, despite all the challenges and all the wrong people involved in this project, it does end off bringing all of Earth together. There you go.
Well, you know what they say. Money talks and Adam walks.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. No, like this, I'm hoping there is more to it. I'm hoping that the next part is he starts questioning Renee in the next episode, because otherwise it is literally he just bought his way in to stop Picard in the gala, but then it doesn't explain how Q knew they'd be in the gala. Like, that wasn't explained. So it's that kind of like...
I think that's the thing, because Q is kind of depowered, isn't he? So you're like, what skills or what abilities has he lost? Because conceivably he could just know that this is going to happen because he's Q.
But everybody knows that Renée Picard was going to be at that gala, and Q knows that the mission for
true.
Jean-Luc is to stop this happening, so he knows that Picard would likely be close by, but Adam Soong's mission is to kill or take out Renée Picard.
Yeah.
So he's there for her and happens to be Jean-Luc while he's there. He probably got the briefing from Q if you see an old guy there. That's Jean-Luc Picard. You need to talk to him. So it wouldn't take a huge amount of knowledge to know that Renée was going to be there.
That's true.
True.
I guess, yeah. Okay, so nothing to see here. I guess that logically makes sense to me. Yeah, no, that's
it's
fine.
a gala for the Europa space mission. It's likely your pilots are going to be there.
I think it just feels a bit like him getting there.
Yeah.
As you say, that is probably why he's used money to get on the board to get to the gala. It felt like it was going somewhere with it,
exactly.
And it never did. And then you realised later on in the episode that his record of being a disgraced scientist is public knowledge, and so they really need better due diligence.
Yeah, money talks.
Yeah, exactly.
But it still feels like he could have done it cheaper, though. Surely he could have bought a ticket from somebody else that was going to the gala, or invest. A wing in a hospital is probably less than investing to become a member of the board of directors.
I'm hoping there's more. I think there will be. I think in the following episode, we hope.
It was a fantastic scene, though. You're totally right, Chris.
Yeah.
The scene with Brent Spiner and Patrick Stewart together. Antagonistic together, considering the last time we saw them together was much less antagonistic. So, 2 great scenes this season so far from Brent Spiner. So let's hope for lots more.
Jarek, do you want to tell us what your medium point is?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of talk about the kind of addiction elements of the series so far. It's been quite interesting to me that they've really kind of focused on this. Right back to season 1, if you remember, Rafi was going through lots of addiction problems. The first time you met her, she was sitting outside, half drunk. We know she had problems with alcohol and drugs throughout season 1, and seems to have kicked that habit. There's a little bit of that in here in the episode. You see when she goes to the bar, she's asked what she wants to drink, and she sees this amazing whiskey in front of her, and turns it down in favor of some soda water. But when she sees Eleanor in this episode again, you see her staring at that drink. So there is that addiction is still in there within Rafi. Yeah. That idea that she could turn back and could, as she used to do, drown her sorrows whenever anything is going on. She hasn't done that since Eleanor's death. So she hasn't resorted to alcohol or drugs to cover herself up. She's remained raw, I suppose, in some way. But throughout the episode, you see that with other characters. You see that with Renee. You see Tallinn watching on as she starts downing shots, and Picard kind of politely going, does she often drink like this? And Tallinn's kind of saying, well, only when there's a massive fall about to happen. That's the only time she will do this kind of thing. She's standing on her own at a bar drinking shots at a party thrown in her honor. That's not a good sign, really, for many people. Shots at a bar in a big party with loads of people around you, all good. If you're doing shots on your own in a corner, that's definitely not a good way to spend your time. But
you're right. It's a great way.
But it does also play into the overarching theme of the series so far with Jerati and the Borg Queen, and the addiction that is the power that the Borg Queen brings, the support that the Borg Queen brings in some way, that addictive nature that is feeding into Jerati. So I just think it's interesting how it's all being pulled out in the storyline and in all of the characters, and how they're responding to that addictiveness. You also do have it with Seven as well. Seven's starting to become really comfortable in this situation. She's getting exactly as Rafi's saying. Rafi's standing at the bar on her own, watching Annika as she's interacting with other humans around her for the first time. She seems really happy in this situation and really addicted to talk to other people because they're no longer seeing her as XB 7 of 9, Yeah. So everybody's getting addicted in their own ways, and I think they're telling it quite well in the story.
Do you think Picard's getting addicted to, when I say power, I don't mean that, but he's a captain, he's used to giving commands, and just that moment with Tallinn, actually, where he actually really asserts himself to say, I'm going to speak to Renee. I know you have stayed in the background and watched over her for over 20 years, but I'm going to break your code, the Watcher code, of non-interference, which, is a little bit like First Contact aspects of the Federation, observe but don't interfere. So he's suddenly breaking that Federation code as well as the Watcher's code because he just simply wants to change the timeline.
Yeah,
and
I can see that.
So, I just wondered if there was an element of that there as well. And also, is that thematically a genesis or like a point in time with one person at this time that we know so well with Picard that shows why this timeline moves towards the Confederation and not to the Federation, because effectively Picard is breaking Federation rule there.
He's certainly breaking the.
I mean, they've done it in the past as well. It's not sacred, but
it's more of guidance.
It's close to sacred.
It's more of the fundamental rule of the Federation that gets broken often enough for it to be just considered guidance at this stage, as long as you're someone like Picard or Kirk or Sisko or whoever needs to break it in that particular episode. But yes, partly that, and I did think it was a bit weird considering Tallinn was going, I'm a ghost, I've never actually interacted with her in the entire 24 years I've been together, I stay in the background the whole time. And you're kind of going, oh, this is your chance to step up and use all of your knowledge to encourage. Oh, okay. Picard's going to walk straight past you and just talk to her for the first time. Inspirational speech. Get it all sorted. It did feel a bit weird because of how she breaks down her entire life effectively in front of him. And he goes, okay, Grant, don't worry about it. I'll go take care of it. But yes, maybe that's an addiction to being the authority figure, potentially. But I did think it was quite interesting pulling out the addiction and the alcohol issues that many of the characters have, or could potentially have, at least calling them out in the episode. So that was my medium point.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. Fear and addiction are some of the main themes of this season. Big time. Yeah. And I look forward to exploring that kind of when we get towards the end of kind of what the fear aspect, the addiction aspect across all the different characters, because it seems to be there's multiple on each. But that being said, let's break down some other points with our main point for this episode.
We must face the ramifications of the Prime Directive.
So there you have it. Let's get into our Prime Directives for this one. John, do you want to kick us off?
Yes, although I just have realised that my big point is actually quite a teeny tiny point, but actually might be a big point because it straddles numerous points. In terms of, I talked mostly about it in the Omega Directive, and that is Jerati the Queen, or 2 of 1. So it's just that moment where, as you said at the start, she is sashaying down one of the main boulevards in downtown LA, very confident, having seen her eyes, seeing her body being taken over by the Borg Queen with the black eyes. And what is she going to do? It is that great ending of the deliciousness of this relationship between Jerati and the Borg Queen. It's to me like when I saw Picard as Locutus. I love that. It's still one of my favorite parts of Star Trek: The Next Generation. And this is very similar. It's been done in a different way and, arguably better, but, it's just really very, very cool. So that is I guess it's my big jazz hands moment.
Yeah, it's your big point.
Exactly. my big jazz hands in honor of Jonathan Frakes. So
Yeah, and I don't want to just continue to compliment Jonathan Frakes in this episode, but the framing again of the scene, this beautiful red dress in a night scene, as you can tell the Borg Queen is looking out through her eyes at this new city to explore. It's all there in the framing of the scene. It's fantastically shot. Loved it. Really great. Button on the end of the episode. They've kind of, you hear the crew asking, where's Jerati? Oh, she'll come back. But we as the audience know we may never see Jerati again. So the Borg Queen has control. What's she going to do with this body and the power that it comes with in this world? I love it. I love it. What a great ending to the episode.
Yeah, no, I didn't think I'd like this. And I'm calling it. I thought it was because we had called it so early.
Right.
Because we were, okay, yeah, it's starting. Like, that she's going to become the Borg Queen. Now, we figured it out. I thought the journey would actually be ruined because we know the destination. But in actual fact, I'm enjoying the journey. I'm enjoying how we're getting there because it's not very much the paint by numbers approach that we're seeing here. Like, we got a musical number. Like, that's not your paint by number. Like, but it served a purpose because of the endorphins. So I'm just like, okay, I want to see what the next few steps, because we've already called that she ends up in the chateau and she kills, Picard's mother. We've called all this. I want to see how that happens, how we get there. Like, what is the next steps? Yeah. Because I think it's interesting enough to see that final reveal, like, of her in her full Borg regalia. And it's a nice 2 or 3 season arc storyline. So when we do go back and rewatch Picard seasons 1 to 3 or seasons 1 to 2, you see the evolution of the character of Jerati.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think that's going to be interesting.
Yeah. It has been really well handled. And I think that's what we said at the time. You know, the journey is part of it. It's not that every plot point in the show has to be a secret or it's a spoiler if you know that this thing is happening. It's the journey getting there and how well it's written, and it has been. Both actresses in these roles have been fantastic since they started working together, and just the playfulness between the two of them, parts of their personalities seeping into each of them as we've been going on, has been really fun to watch. And now, just the expectation of what can happen between now and the end of the series with Borg Queen in control is a great way to leave it.
Yep. No, 100%. So on that note, shall I jump into my point?
Absolutely.
It is tangentially, because I've already mentioned the Picard's mother being taken, because that's what we see. We see that Picard is reliving. He is still in a coma, but he is essentially, his mind is active and he's reliving what we see as flashbacks from previous moments in his life, predominantly his mother as him as a child in Chateau Picard. And that is what he consistently is rerunning through his mind. And we get like that very harsh cut of back and forth of the flashbacks. And it's going to be interesting because there's only one way to save him. Yeah. And that way to save him is for Tallinn to, which was very, very Star Trek. It's like, well, I already have this thing that does the opposite, so I'm just going to invert it. And that will allow me to do what we need to do. I was like, yeah, okay, that was... Yeah. Perfect. All right. Yeah, it was. It was like, here's that tool I already had in my back pocket for just such a situation.
No, for the opposite of this situation. Yes, but I'll just flip it.
Yeah, exactly.
Reverse the polarity.
Which is interesting, isn't it? Because we were saying if the Borg Queen is killed or if Jerati's never seen again, how will they travel back? How will they move from this? I guess Tallinn will have something just sort of tucked under the sofa cushion.
She might.
Yeah. Oh, and we're also 100% going to find out that Tallinn is Laris.
Maybe.
Like, we know that's coming. Like, that's it. She's changed her ears. She put herself in hibernation, and she's secretly like 800 years old.
Maybe, because they haven't stopped mentioning it.
No, it must be where the crush developed was in this time period, and she inserts herself into his
life later. Yeah. Because they showed the flashback multiple times of her sitting in the episode 1 with the glass of wine. That was in the flashback.
Absolutely. And in the same way, I suppose the reason why it stands out so much is because they haven't once mentioned that Adam Soong looks like Data.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know that there is obviously the Soong family, but they haven't once mentioned Data, so they're not mentioning that because there's no connection that they're going to explore with that storyline. They're definitely going to explore a connection with Laris because Talon's even asking Jean-Luc to explain who this Laris is that he keeps mentioning, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're definitely going to explore why she looks like her.
It's Picard's love across time and space, ultimately, I think. And that's why we have Gates McFadden coming in for season 3, who will effectively give a good old slap across the face when she realizes that they are all hunky-dory.
Well, maybe he wasn't officially married. Remember in the prime timeline to Dr. Crusher.
It was mine,
but I'm not 100% convinced that she is Laris. I do think there's a little more complexity to it than that. They are being really clear about the fact that Tallinn is a humanoid and she's not a Romulan, unlike Laris. So they're being really clear about that. There's going to be a little bit more complexity to the story at the very least.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be good. But all we do know is she is going to save Jean-Luc. She is going to delve into his mind in the next episode.
Yeah.
And we are going to now get the flashbacks. We're going to get the story of the Borg Queen under Chateau Picard.
And also the flashbacks to Laris.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, we're going to see both of them. Yeah. It's going to be interesting.
And I know that Tallinn has the piece of equipment. But if I was Jean-Luc and had a choice, I'd probably send Rafi in, given that Rafi has known him as a person for quite a long time and probably wouldn't be surprised at any of the things in his mind. This possible new love interest hopping into your brain and seeing all the stuff that you keep hidden from everybody else. Ooh, that's not something I'd enjoy.
Yeah, I quite like a drop of wine. So maybe whilst Tallinn has been on Earth for 20 odd years, you know, she's gotten a taste for the old glass of red, and then she sees that he owns his own chateau in the future, and they can have these lovely sort of events every so often, but also just nightly, I guess, where they get a good old full-bodied bottle of red.
So you mean by seeing the deepest, darkest secrets that he wants to keep hidden, she could fall more in love with him? Interesting.
That is very Hollywood. That is very Hollywood. I'm going to say.
Interesting. I'm not too sure whether like anybody poking inside my brain, regardless of how long I've known them. But I just wonder, given Rafi is the most experienced with them and his first in command, that I would probably send her in. But anyway, that's all I thought.
Yes, but that's all my point for this one, because we'll find out exactly what happens in the next episode.
Interesting setup, isn't it? To have him in a coma, and it's going to go and explore that in a bit more detail than we've seen throughout the season. You know, he could have just sat down and explained what had happened. We could have seen the flashbacks, but now we're going to have an interactive holosuite version of it, I guess, next episode.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a good one. But I'm also very much interested to see how they do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it going to be like the flashback is happening in them and they green screen them onto the actual already pre-recorded piece, like you said, the holodeck, or is it going to be like she will be talking to the baby Jean-Luc Picard, who's already in his own mind, going through the horror? It's that kind of, you know, how because there's different ways you can do it from a cinematic point. So it's going to be interesting to watch.
It is, and I know Tallinn was saying here that it's about breaking him from the block that's in his mind that's keeping him comatose. It's not revisiting his history and watching his history. There's something in that history that's tying him to stay inside his own mind rather than coming back out.
Yeah. To the moment.
Yeah. How scary must it have been for Teresa, though, to be called in at night for this man that had been knocked down by a car. He's in a coma, and she thinks, "Oh, I'll use my skills. I'll use my medical skills on this person that's come in," and then to realize that he's a synthetic human. So she tries to restart his heart and effectively electrocutes herself and shorts every piece of equipment in the building. How scary must it be for her to think, I'm looking at a human body here, and then get the shocking discovery that it's not exactly human?
I'd say it was pretty shocking, because she says she put in, like, what was it, 20 volts?
Yeah.
Multiple times, or 20 shocks, excuse me.
And she's not happy either.
No.
So she definitely takes it out on Rios.
Definitely, yeah.
So I think that love, or that romance across the ages might not be happening.
Well, we'll see next episode, I'm sure. Or the episode after that, we'll definitely see
So
before the end of the season.
lovey-dovey in Picard. It's great.
It is.
Well, then let us change the tone and move into Derek's point, because this one is not so much lovey-dovey.
No.
Yeah, it's not. It's the discovery that's happening in the episode from Corey finally finding out who she is.
Or can I also say that Corey finding out that she's an allegory?
Ooh, no.
Old school callback to season 1 of The Simpsons there.
Yes.
Yeah.
But she has found meaning in those pictures and stuff, and herself. So she might actually be the living embodiment of an allegory as well, which would be awesome.
Yeah, Corey's discovery that she is, the life work of Adam Soong rather than his daughter. I thought it was really well laid out, really well put together. Not 100% sure whether it's he's grown clones from scratch or that's what I presume it is, but there may be a little bit more to it than that. But I love the reveal. I love this this kind of going through the computer after she's hacked in and finding these really early videos, thinking that they're her and hearing a name that isn't her name, and then going through hundreds, it seems, of different kids that have been grown this way or have come about this way, and all dying in different circumstances, and seeing Adam Soong get progressively more obsessed by it, and then progressively more distanced from the children themselves. And then finally we see him at his wit's end saying, Corey is the last one. She is my final opportunity to do this. Can't do any more than this. If this fails, I can no longer persist with these experiments. So it's a great reveal. I thought it was really well done. And really interesting that this is what Adam Soong has been focused on for so long.
Yeah.
Because we know his family line does like to stretch the mad scientist gene a bit.
They never tend to let ethics get in the way of a
Yes.
good science experiment, yes.
No, not at all. I enjoyed this one. I do think it is clones with accelerated aging of some kind. Because there's multiple clones. So, like, we see hundreds of video, at least hundreds of names, not hundreds of names, we see at least 20 names.
Yeah.
So, with if they're all going to be 20 something, like, that just doesn't, the timeline doesn't make sense. If he was saying that they grew fast, he experimented fast.
Well, he does call out that some of them pass away within a few weeks, though.
Yes.
And some of them within a few months. So I'm not sure whether everybody has lasted for as long as Corey has, and potentially that's the reason why he's developed such a relationship with Corey and is treating her so much like a daughter, is because she's the only one that's grown to this age, but still can't go outdoors.
But did she grow to that age?
Yeah.
Because she's like, I don't remember that. I don't remember that. I don't remember that. So I'm thinking those other ones, one of them was his actual child. And she died of this disease, and he's been cloning her and accelerating her birth and her age to essentially try and get to where he's at now.
Oh, maybe. I just
so.
assumed it was another challenge that he has never been able to overcome. We saw that with the Soongs of the future. They have challenges that they couldn't overcome within their development, and we're always trying to improve the process to create the perfect version of what they were trying to create. So this Adam Soong is trying to create the perfect
human.
The
perfect genetic human, essentially what he's saying.
Well, that's it. Not even about just, genetic scientists, but, he is dealing in eugenics. And as you say, it is about creating this perfect person. Yeah. And so, but I thought it was really good, as you say, just the tension, how it built up, Corey's seeing he's distressed, has no idea why, is asking him, and I love he comes back, the why matters, saving you, my life's work.
You are the why.
Yeah,
exactly.
You are the why.
Yeah.
And of course, that's an unusual thing you would say to your own biological child.
Absolutely.
And she's just confused.
Absolutely,
can't
as you
understand
would
it.
be. Yeah, he's not answering any questions, and he's coming out with effectively riddles in Corey's mind. This makes no sense. This is not the way he's.
It's ramblings. That's what I was thinking. Was he drunk? Because he comes in, he's distraught, annoyed because he's failed. Whatever has been promised in both ways, he feels he's not going to get. He's not going to be
absolutely
rewarded by Q because he hasn't managed to kill Renee.
Yeah.
She has gone into quarantine now. So, I thought this was really good and a great way of pulling in Issa Briones. We were wondering how she was going to fit in here, and it's actually really nicely done. I like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot.
It's certainly a much better way than poor Evan Longoria, who just gets a flash every episode as Elnor. That's all he gets, unfortunately. But
he will be back.
For now.
He will.
For now.
He will be back. Excellent. That was it. That was my major moment from the episode. Anything else we want to talk about in the episode that we may have missed?
No, I like that in 2024, this alternate 2024, there is still shameful PR photo shoots.
Of course.
Where they literally have to pull over Renee to go, no, you got your time, do your duty, get in front of him with the donors and smile for the camera.
Absolutely, yeah. They obviously need the investment, Chris, as we
we know they don't anymore because Soong has already just been wildly gracious with the cash, and it's enough to put him on a board, which is a couple of mil.
Yeah, potentially.
There you go. So that was the only fun one for me.
Yep, the only one from me is just the conversation with Tallinn and Picard. I just really like that she is able to recognize the waver in his voice whenever he speaks or mentions Laris, and then she follows up when he comes back with effectively a distraction. She goes, I now know how you lie as well. I thought that was nice.
Yes, absolutely. Really good catch from her. I liked it. Excellent.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, Trekkers and Trekkies. That are our thoughts, our notes, and our points for this episode. With that, John, 2 of 3, do you like this episode? What did you think of this episode?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this again. I give this 4 belting Jerati solos out of 5.
Nice.
I really loved the tropey framing device. I know against you guys. I loved just this further development of Jerati and the Borg Queen. I like that in the flashbacks of the tropey framing device, we do get to see a monster for the first time, or it may have been at the end of the tropey framing device.
It was.
But we get to see a little bit of a monster in terms of those flashbacks. That block, I'm assuming that Laris is going to DIY out of Jean-Luc Picard.
Yes, and I'm guaranteeing if you pause that scene, you will see exactly who that monster is.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that. I love just seeing all the characters, the crew, in that social setting as well of the gala. It's something different. The confrontation of Picard with Adam Soong, great. The sage words from Picard to his ancestor, really just very powerful. I love the Picard assertion, pushing against Tallinn to interfere, and I just thought then, with the cherry on the cake, with Corey realizing what she is or who she is, that it was signposted at the swimming pool with the look when she asked about her mother.
Yeah.
And here, we just get a really kind of fantastic moment where she, finds out that she is, created, not born.
Exactly.
So I thought that was great. So yeah, I'd give this 4 belting Jerati solos out of 5. Derek, what did you think of episode 6 of Star Trek Picard?
I liked it. The direction of the episode, probably my favorite part of it. I've mentioned a number of times what Jonathan Frakes did with the episode, really good. There was just some things in the writing that I wasn't happy with. The framing device, the loss of Jerati, with people wondering hang on a second, she was really central to everything that was going on. Oh, have we forgotten her? That was a bit weird. Renee and Jean-Luc walking together into a car park. Jean-Luc gets knocked down and then Renee's just taken off, but not on screen, so we don't even see her getting taken away. A couple of things, and the episode was so short, it felt like they just didn't have some of the scenes filmed, like those scenes filmed, so they just kind of glossed over them, I guess. So I kind of felt this is a little bit lower on the scale for the series, but the story was great. The direction was great, and having at least one scene this season between Brent Spiner and Patrick Stewart was worth it, definitely. So overall, great episode, but just a couple of weird moments. How about yourself, Chris?
I don't have much more to add. I'm actually more leaning slightly towards Derek on this one, but probably more to the point that just I'm reserving the final order judgment until we see where this goes.
Of course, yeah.
And I'm not saying we all do, but I'm just saying kind of, for me, it was short, but luckily I rewatched the previous episode coming into this just to give myself that reminder, and the two of them smashed together made sense. Yeah. It was a good back-to-back kind of 2-weeker.
Yeah.
But there was just some choices. And I think that was, maybe it was COVID. Maybe it was like I couldn't film this because we had an outbreak on the thing, and so we're just skipping this. Mm-hmm. I've seen worse editing. Morbius. But I've also seen great episodes of editing in this. So I'm kind of, it was a sufficient episode. Right. Let's see where it takes us next. But like that one shot with Jonathan Frakes with just Jerati and her dress flowing in the wind as she walks into the distance was amazing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Really, really good. Yeah. Really, really good.
I need a drink, and that means one thing. John, can you take us away to 10 Forward?
Yes, it is the 10 Forward pub quiz, or should I say it's the 10 Forward gala pub quiz. Ooh. Whether it is a club soda, a glass of champagne, or a scotch on the rocks, who knows what you might like to have for this week's quiz question from 10 Forward.
Excellent.
It's a two-parter. So
that's what makes it a gala pub quiz.
It does, exactly. It is a two-parter. So here we go. Question 6 from episode 6. What is the type of shuttle, and what nickname does Renée Picard call the shuttle as Jean-Luc tells her to look up as he tries to calm her down?
That should be a good one. That's a great scene. I think everybody will remember the scene.
Yeah, I think so.
I think we'll find. I think we'll find.
Oh yeah, it's an easy one to the point where I nearly dropped it in this episode multiple times. I was like, oh no, can't say that. No.
So it's call sign and nickname of the shuttle.
Basically, excellent. Yes. So just to repeat that, what is the type of shuttle, and what nickname does Renée Picard call the shuttle as Jean-Luc tells her to look up as he tries to calm her down?
Excellent. Put that together with all the other answers to all the questions for the 10 Forward pub quiz for this season. Email them into us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, and you could be in with the chance of getting your hands on some Star Trek Picard goodies at the end of the season. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Mr. Harrison.
No problemo.
As we continue this gala episode, let's bring in some fellow Trekkies and Trekkers for some feedback. Don't forget, if you have any thoughts you want to tell us and the other listeners, you can email us at feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, or head on over to our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries, where each and every week we put up a spoiler post. I should say Derek, our illustrious editor and producer, puts up a spoiler post. You can jump in there, leave some comments, and we read them out in this episode, like now, where we got an email from Laura Renderbow, who said, "Greetings and salutations, podcasters. I am a new listener, having found that one Picard-related podcast was insufficient to fill the time between episodes. I began listening to yours after season 2, episode 5, and am now fully caught up. I noticed some confusion in the episode 5 podcast regarding some specific activities and want to clear up a bit. 2024, Adam Soong is a geneticist who, due to his experiments, is now on the outs with the legitimate medical science community. His primary goal, to cure his daughter, Core, from one or more life-threatening rare genetic conditions. It is mentioned that he experimented on ex-military. Could this dovetail into the work of the next Soong? Good question. Well, we know it's not his daughter now, or is it? Question marks. Only time will tell. Laura went on to say, Enterprise NX-01 era Arik Soong is also a geneticist who is also disgraced in that when we first see him in season 4 story arc episode 4, 5 and 6, he is incarcerated for genetically engineering the augments. When Captain Archer returns him to his cell, all his handwritten notes about eugenics, have been removed from all the walls. He says to Archer he thinks perfecting humanity may not be possible. He is now thinking about cybernetics, but he doubts he will finish the work as it would take a generation or two. He begins to make handwritten notes on a new topic. Moving on to Star Trek Next Generation, the 24th century Noonien Soong is a cybernetist, husband of Juliana, father of Alton, father and creator of Data and Lore and B4, perfecter of the positonic matrix necessary to create synthetic sentient androids. He lives a very long life. As part of Star Trek Picard, first seen in 2398, Alton Soong, son of Noonien, mother unknown, brother of Data and co-creator with Bruce Maddox of the Children of Data androids, Daj, Soji, and all their siblings. His exact credentials are not stated, but it seems cybernetics is his main focus, although the golem body he made goes well beyond that field. The glowing monument statue in the bay we saw in episode 2 is of Adam Soong.
That's right.
You speculate that because Core doesn't remember her mother and Adam's answer to her question seemed false, that Core might be synthetic. Because the Soongs don't seem to switch to cybernetics for at least another 100 years, I pose the following hypothesis. Core isn't synthetic, but entirely lab-created human. The ultimate genetic no-no that the 20th and 21st century people think of when they think of cloning. Adam seems to make up his answer to Core's question because he doesn't really know. Core's mother was a donor of genetic material that Adam knew nothing personal about. One other thought I have for you is Jean-Luc and Seven were both assimilated and later removed from the collective and deborgified. Stand to reason the same could be done for Agnes. Live long and prosper, Laura Rendebow. Thank you, Laura. Yes, they are definitely XBs. We do call them out all of season 1 as being XBs.
Excellent. Thanks so much for clearing that up, Laura. Yeah, I know we had some kind of challenges last week because Adam is a new member of the Soong dynasty, let's say. So it's interesting to see all the kind of flow of it. I think particularly the one from Enterprise when you mentioned it there, Captain Archer going to visit Arik Soong. I absolutely remember that episode because I definitely saw it. So that kind of adds into the legacy of the Soong dynasty. Thanks so much, and great to hear you on board with us for Star Trek Picard season 2.
Yeah, great stuff, Laura. Thanks for all that information. Really good stuff. And I definitely would say yes. Agnes could also be deborgified. Yeah. I do like that word. Yes,
but will that destroy the timeline? Oh, timey-wimey. It's always fun.
Yeah, we also have another email in from Victor Von Doom. Greetings, Trekkies, says Victor. The triumvirate of Stewart, Frakes and Spiner has truly blown the roof off this series. At times I forgot I was watching a Star Trek episode. Picard's motley crew sure cleaned up nicely for the gala. Pat Benatar should be proud of Agnes's performance. I wonder how much of that was Agnes or the Borg Queen. I hope Agnes can find an enema to flush out Her Majesty. Indeed. Now we know, though, where the Soong curse began. Brent Spiner was on fire in this episode. As always, I look forward to TVPI podcasts and great feedback. Peace and love, Victor Von Doom. Yeah, thanks so much, Victor. Yeah, I've really enjoyed Picard bringing in Frakes and Spino, and as well Marina Sirtis from last season, as well as with Whoopi Goldberg as well. In this season, it's just been really good, and you do just get that next generation tingle. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
I think you just feel not only seeing great actors that are really comfortable with one another in their profession, but also that they're just good friends. So I really like it.
Absolutely. Wait till next season when LeVar Burton and Michael Dorn join the group again. It'll be really, really fun to watch, won't it? Thanks so much, Victor. We also had some Facebook feedback about our episode 5 podcast where we discussed a possible nod to Captain Kirk's two-handed punch, and Jamie Lawton had some thoughts about it. He says, on the double-fisted punch, Pedro in that episode was handcuffed, so had to double-fist punch. This punch was also used by Jonathan Archer from Enterprise in 1944 in the episode Stormfront, when a prisoner of the Nazis, his hands were also handcuffed. It was also used by Jean-Luc Picard when he was fighting a Nausicaan before he was stabbed in the episode Tapestry. Also in a couple of episodes of Lower Decks by Commander Jack Ransom, of course. First seen on screen by Spock in The Man Trap against the Salt Vampire, Kirk actually only used it in 2 episodes, in Arena Against the Gorn and another episode called Journey to Babel. That's really interesting. I would always have associated that double-handed punch to Kirk, but I think it's probably because of that fight with the Gorn in the arena. That's such an iconic moment that's shown so often when they show clips of the original series. You see that fight between him and the Gorn, him throwing that double-handed punch. I always thought it was a William Shatner original, but it wasn't even him that threw the first one on screen. Fantastic, Jamie. Thanks for that.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie.
Yes, thank you so much, Jamie. My God, you guys are blowing me away with the lore here. Over to Dr. Bob Phillips, who had this to say about episode 6. So that's what happens if you try to cardiovert a synthetic. Seriously though, that clinic is running on 2012 tech. Bummed that Sexy Doctor dropped in an episode earlier than my prediction. I've already said this, but Dr. Bob did say this earlier. Jerati singing is proof that the universe is in perfect balance, is it? On one side, Agnes, on the other, Chris Jones.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. Yes, I keep the universe in balance at all times. That is my goal, and it is my role within the world.
Love it. That's not helping.
No, it's not. But that's why suddenly things are out of balance. See? Agnes hasn't sung yet. Moving on, Dr. Bob had this to say. Absolutely loved the clone discovery twist of Corey. And the best line of the episode has to be from Non-Laris, where she said, a lot of what we do is protective. It doesn't mean it's good for us.
Very good.
Yeah, it was a good line.
Yeah, that was in response to being told that Picard's in a coma. We should keep him that way. Just kind of going, oh no, hang on with your terrible version of medicine here. Yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. We also got some feedback from Heather Wallace, who says someone's been binging on Orphan Black. Is that why all the Soong men are identical from the 21st century to the 24th? In Greek mythology, Kori is another name for the goddess Persephone, the name of the first clone. Persephone was forced to live 6 months of the year in the underworld with Hades, and here Kori can't go out into the sun. I hope she has her own bedroom in that underground lair. So far, we've only seen her asleep on the sofa. I'm all for suspending disbelief, but why didn't the band wonder who the total stranger joining them out of nowhere was? But I guess Soong brought his way in on the board. Maybe it's commonplace for rich guests to make a donation and indulge their singing ambitions. Very good, Heather. Yeah, I was kind of wondering how the band knew that she was going to be doing a jazz version of Pat Benatar's 80s hit.
Yeah.
That'd be a real surprise, wouldn't it?
Or maybe they had that on the cards and it was the Borg Queen that knew that was happening.
Oh, there you go. Oh, I like that.
It could have been that way round, with the playlist on MS Word or something.
I like that, John. I like that.
She hacked into MS Word.
I'm sure the Borg Queen can do that, definitely.
Great stuff. Thanks, Heather.
That's really interesting about the naming convention for all of the clones that Adam Soong has used, because we do hear the name Persephone called out as one of the previous clones as well.
Really interesting.
Yeah, like it does seem almost like a bit of a pod that Corey lives in, doesn't it? Because she does seem to be sleeping on the couch and stuff pretty often. But I think there's a couple of rooms off the side. I guess they just didn't build the sets for them.
Yeah,
probably.
I think she was having an afternoon cat nap or something.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Heather.
Yeah, thanks, Heather. Jamie Lawson also has another little bit of feedback over on Facebook. He says, nice shout out to Enterprise opening credits with the appearance of the shuttle model.
Ooh, kind of spoiler for your 10 forward pub quiz question.
It really is. So we can't go into the sort of designation name for the shuttle, but the same shuttle is in the opening credits of Star Trek Enterprise.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah, we had to look it up. I'm now singing Faith of the Heart in my head over and over again. Thanks, Jamie. But it is really interesting. It's effectively the bridge between the old NASA space shuttles and Zefram Cochrane's ship where he made first contact. So,
yes, and well, it was warp drive.
Yeah, exactly. So quite interesting that they have that directly referenced here in Star Trek Picard. A great catch, Jamie. A nice Easter egg for those of you that picked it up as well.
Fantastic catch.
I know I missed it.
Yeah, great stuff. Thanks, Jamie.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Trekkies and Trekkers. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you stay subscribed to the podcast. And if you enjoy what you hear, why not share it with your friends? Because, John, tell them why.
Yes, because sharing the podcast is, of course, sharing the lovey-doveyness.
Absolutely. That's lots of love to share in this episode. And this episode of TV Podcast Industries is brought to you by our supporters over in Patreon, including Jeff McMurray. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jeff.
Yes, thank you, Jeff. Don't forget, you can support us monthly for any amount over on patreon.com/TV Podcast Industries. Or if you'd like to support us for a one-off donation, you can pop over and keep our illustrious editor in coffee by heading on to buymeacoffee.com/TVPI.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be back next week with Star Trek Picard, Season 2, Episode 7, your feedback, and the next question to our 10 forward pub quiz, so make sure you join us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We also continue covering Marvel's Moon Knight, starring Oscar Isaac, May Calamway, and Ethan Hawke. Episode 3 coming out April 13th. If you're not watching Moon Knight, definitely check it out. A mind-bending, fun show from Marvel. Loving it so far.
Definitely.
Thanks so much for joining us. Talk to you again next time.
See you again soon.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, fellow Trekkies. As always, a pleasure. Remember, keep watching, keep listening, and keep trekking.
Bye.
Bye.